In 2007, I had the unique honor to try to follow President Bill Clinton during his commencement speech, and a few minutes before we were about to walk down the procession, I had a chance to meet him in the alumni room, and I was the student speaker. So I asked him, "How am I supposed to follow you?" And he smiled, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, "You know, I really don't know." And I mentioned this because I don't know how I found that. So thank you so much. So good to be a part of this group. I'm so grateful. Let me begin with the obvious thank yous to President Mott for his service, Megan Scott for the nomination, and Carol Brown in the Office of Advancement and Alumni Affairs for bringing this day to fruition. Special thanks to Monica Berlin for serving as gracious host, though I hardly need a host, I still feel like I'm at home here, as well as all the other faculty members, including the legendary Robin Metz, king of the 5-hour writer's workshop, joining us here tonight. But tonight I hope to talk briefly about the faculty member with whom I likely had the most interactions, though when I wrote these remarks I didn't realize that he was going to introduce me, so right back at you right now. The last time I saw Nick Regicourt, really saw him, had a good conversation with him, was when I was a student at a catch reception my senior year. I was heading out of CFA when I found myself engaged in one final conversation with Nick, the man who first took me into his office as my parents walked across the quad, the man with whom I had my first and last college class with, in the very same room, mind you, just 4 years apart. That last class, my final term, wasn't even scheduled for that room, and in fact we hadn't met there once throughout the term. But as serendipity would have it, for whatever reason, be it busted pipe or a locked door or just a change of scenery, we found ourselves back in our familiar room on the second floor of Old Main. As I sat in my old chair in that old classroom, the deja vu was too much. Suddenly I heard the echoes of 1,000 conversations we'd shared there, discussions that had been frenetic in their energy and continued long after my classmates and I left the room. As I sat there for the last time, I remembered the first time, back when I was just some meek, mumbling freshman with little of value to say. Over the years, that changed a little, and Nick had a lot to do with that. Now, of course, I didn't realize this brief moment at the catch reception in CFA would be my goodbye to this beloved teacher. We didn't act like it was a goodbye. He stopped me, as he often did, and offered me 2 pieces of advice. The first was to read a Rilke poem entitled Archaic Torso of Apollo. This seemed vitally important to him, but I read this immediately. He took a blue Post-it note from his pocket, and his familiar pencil script, a script I knew so well from all the comments he'd written me over the years. He wrote the poem and title on the paper and handed it over. "Don't forget," he said. And the second piece of advice was to find a friend I could share my work with. This, he said, might just be the most valuable thing you can get from graduate school. As it turned out, I'd already found that friend here at Knox, Brendan Toth, who has been my loyal reader for nearly a decade now, and was kind enough to make the drive up with me this weekend. But what I want to say today, what I want to admit publicly, is that I forgot to read Archaic Torso of Apollo. Rather, I tried to read it, I didn't fully get it, and then I forgot about it for years. But for years, that slip of blue paper remained in my wallet, passed through several generations of wallets, and stayed folded there long after the pencil had already worn away. And about a year ago, after 1,000 openings and closings, that wallet finally turned Apollo's torso to dust. But by that point, it was no longer about the poem, but the man who had told me to read it. This is the power of a faculty who cares deeply for their students. A faculty who knew me down to the piece of fruit I carried in the side pocket of my backpack. A faculty who knew my favorite books, who lent me theirs, who when I needed a letter of recommendation wrote me a book instead. I will never be able to pay back this debt. As a creative writing professor myself, no, I have ample opportunity, but I don't have enough Post-it notes or book recommendations. Knox gave me a voice, an education, and a community. Knox told me I could what I thought I could not. Knox gave me a degree, but more importantly, Knox gave me people who would give me Post-it notes again and again, life lessons confined to 3x3-inch squares. But sometimes, all the space you need to change a life. Thank you so much.